Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Banana 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Packard, King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up,
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Boston Celtics podcast on the internet, Al Gore's internet, anyone's internet. I am Sam J.M. Packard, joined by my great co-host from MassLive.com, Brian B. Robb, and from The Athletic, Jay King. And we are coming to you on the CLNS YouTube page because this is the free episode. We are a Monday through Friday Boston Celtics podcast, but we give one to you every week for free. That's on the CLNS YouTube page or anywhere you get podcasts. That means today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at PrizePicks. It is Sunday. You'll be listening to this on Monday, February 24th, and the Celtics absolutely own the New York Knicks. I think I saw a statistic that the Knicks in their 3 games this year have not even like been in a close game or anything like that, but just have been in the lead for I think a total of 3 minutes of actual action. This is supposed to be one of the teams that, is going to be a rival of the Knicks or of the Celtics in the Eastern Conference. This is the 3 seed. This is the team that the Celtics are supposed to be fighting for positioning. And I would welcome a playoff series against the Knicks at this point because the Celtics absolutely dominate them as they've done in all 3 games. Jay, we'll start with you. Is this just is it an awful matchup? Have the Celtics caught the Knicks on 3 just really down nights? Like, what is going on here to cause this utter domination in all 3 games?
I think it's the matchup.
But they got the guys to beat the Celtics.
But then they got the guy who gives the Celtics a target, and that's Karl Towns. And Karl Towns, when you put him out there at center, you just have vulnerabilities. And that vulnerability is the 3-point arc. That vulnerability is guarding pick and rolls, especially on the perimeter. And his defensive limitations don't always matter, but against the Celtics, they matter a whole lot. And it feels like they can just pick on him, call him up, bring him into the action, and get a great look at will. And Jason Tatum has absolutely destroyed the Knicks, I think partly because of that specific matchup. Obviously, Brunson is a target too, just because he's smaller. But I think the bigger issue for New York during these games has been Karl Towns and an inability to be versatile enough to keep the Celtics from doing what they want and doing what they want with a lot of ease.
I mean, this is the story of like Celtics versus Towns his whole career, I feel like. I mean, now it's on a bigger stage that the Knicks got him and trying to push their chips in the middle for him, but they've been abusing him defensively time and time again, whether he's in Minnesota or now here. And now it's wild to me. I mean, we'll get into more of this Knicks team, like their future later, but for now, they're 0-7 against like the top 3 teams in the NBA, with Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder. It's just like the Celtics have all the answers for them to take them to. This is a team that's supposed to be able to outscore you, Packard, and they can't because the Celtics have all the pieces they need, especially tonight that we're going. When you have Drew Holiday looking back like himself again, then the Celtics offense just reaches another level, and that's where they were for, certainly in the first quarter of this game.
That's where I feel like the Celtics really made their, what's the phrase? Made their bones, made their bread.
Made hay.
They earned with meat. We have an established phrase for this. They earned with meat in the first quarter. And I thought Kristaps Porzingis' like rim protection was fantastic. And they're the top five, the starting unit. I think their defense really is kind of coming together and gelling, and they've just got out in transition, and that's how I think they built that lead early. But it really feels like the bringing back Drew's more comfortable now, but the rim protection with Kristaps and the ability to just like, we're going to play Jason Tatum on Cat, or we're going to play Drew Holiday on Cat, just the defensive versatility that they have. And it feels almost like a cliche at this point, but like that's how you win for sustained periods in the NBA. That's why this team was so good last year, was because of their just ability on the defensive end of the floor. And I feel like that's the main reason why they've kind of re-locked back in, winning 9 of their last 10, is that they've kind of rededicated themselves to being a great defensive team. And I think a lot of that just starts with, one, it's the pressure on the perimeter, but just like Kristaps has been phenomenal at the rim. And I thought he was especially good tonight, just on everything the Knicks were trying to do, especially in that first quarter.
Yeah, at one point in the first half, I looked at the box score, and the Knicks were 10 for 27 on 2-pointers. That's just disgusting. They had no chance of having success, and it was partly because the Celtics just felt really comfortable having guys lay off people on the perimeter. Like Josh Hart, you're not super worried about. OG Anunoby can shoot a little bit, but you're not super worried about him. When Precious Achiuwa is out there, yes, by all means, leave him wide open. So there are guys who just aren't threats. And the Knicks as a team, they actually shot a decent amount tonight. I think they shot 36 threes, but they entered this game last in the league in 3-point attempts during the month of February. There's just an enormous gulf between the level of threats from outside on their roster versus the level of threats on Boston's roster. And because of that, the Celtics can lay off. They can totally wall off the rim. They can make things hard on Jalen Brunson. They did an amazing job of keeping Brunson off the line entirely today. It was just the second time all season, obviously with his herky-jerky game, with some would say unethical leanings.
I was about to yell unethical, so thank you for using that word.
Some would say unethical leanings. He can be really tough to keep off the line, but I thought Drew Holiday was awesome on him early and just kind of shut off that faucet right away. And then they have Kristaps at the rim, and it's just a tough matchup for New York. I don't think it's a fluke that the 3 games have been pretty lopsided. Like, it just feels to me like the Celtics are in a different class, and the Knicks, as good as they are most of the time, like, it's just at some point you run into a talent discrepancy, and it feels like it's pretty big. And then stylistically, the Celtics can just like poke and prod at them in ways that they're not really equipped to handle.
Yeah, and the scary thing is with the Knicks is like I think we all kind of talked about this before the season started. It's like this is what, and so the fact they couldn't kind of foresee these issues. Now, granted, the Celtics are just a juggernaut. Like, it's tough to find the right people to go up against the Celtics if you're any team here. But the Knicks were seemingly as close as anyone. They had a couple last pieces to do, but like Bridges in this game and Bridges this season against the Celtics has been giving them absolutely nothing.
Oh, the fourth quarter of that very first game of the season, he kind of bounced back. I think he had, and in this game, he had 8 points in a row. So let's not throw him. He's
been good in garbage time.
Yeah.
They got close at the 13 there, but yeah, like him, OG, and same thing in these games, and then you just look at the benches, and it's like, I know Mitchell Robinson's supposed to come back for them next week, but even when he does, like, he's not going to turn the tide for this matchup. And the Celtics, I don't know how often they've gone to that straight 4-man sub like midway through the fourth quarter. I don't think we've seen that for a while, where they just went through it, and then the starters were good, and then that group kept it rolling, and they had some tough minutes in the third quarter when the Knicks put up a fight. But again, when it was nice to see this group hold Jay and like working all the pieces working well together, because I feel like that was the one thing we talked about that they hadn't really done yet, before the break.
And it feels like that starting lineup is finally rounding into shape.
Yeah.
They have been dominant over 30 minutes so far after the All-Star break. Obviously, that's the tiniest of sample sizes. I guess the
whole Celtics team has been pretty dominant in the 2 games after the All-Star break.
Yeah, but that starting lineup for the season has been outscored, as crazy as that sounds. But they're rounding into shape. Drew Holiday, I thought this was his best game in a long time. that first quarter, he was everywhere. Like, first play of the game, Jalen Brunson is in one corner. Holiday follows him to the other corner, closes out, takes away a three-pointer, then sticks with him, forces an air ball, doesn't foul him, even though Brunson was calling for a foul. He was looking for the foul. Even like deep into the game, like, Drew was picking up full court with 2 minutes left, up 20, and it's like, all right, if he's got this type of energy, if he's ready for this, like, that's a great sign for the Celtics going down the stretch run. But that first 5 minutes, it was like he did everything. He had the great pass to Kristaps in transition. He had the play where he just kind of absolutely stopped Mikal Bridges. Bridges started to post him up and then was like, nah, I'm good. He had a corner three. He was just amazing over that first 5-6 minutes to help the Celtics get a 12-point lead. And I just thought this was one of his better games. And the last two games, really, he didn't have a huge scoring game against Philly, but he was guarding Joel Embiid. There were like times that they didn't even send a lot of help when he was guarding Joel Embiid. He was guarding tonight. He went from Brunson for his first stint to Karl Towns during parts of the second quarter. It's like when he's out, when he's not at his best, and then when he was out for a little while, and they can patch things over and, you know, get away with that. But when Drew's at his best and when he's shutting guys down and when he has that type of energy, making shots, being aggressive, all that, like, he's just such a difference maker for them. And I think it's a big deal that he looked as good as he did today. Obviously, you want him playing at his best once the playoffs come. This is his first game in double digits since January 25th. And obviously, there was an all-star break and he had a 4-game absence in there, but he went 6 straight games in single digits. That's crazy. They need that scoring to kind of change.
And he did, like, 12 points is basically what you need from Drew Holiday. He was 2 of 4 from deep, and it's just like he knocked down the open threes that came to him. I don't remember the specific person in the Still Poddable chat who brought this up, but obviously he's no longer the leader in the league in terms of like 3-point percentage from the corners.
27.4% entering today.
Not great, but if you look at the totality of Drew Holiday as a Celtic, so if you combine basically his past 2 years, he's still around a 40% 3-point shooter. And so it could just be he's had a down year this year, and obviously he was dealing with a shoulder injury. I think we've had a lot of conversations about, like, well, what if Drew Holiday's maybe lost a step, or like his, obviously, are you concerned about Drew Holiday? If he's going to turn in defensive performances like today, I am not concerned about Drew Holiday in the playoffs whatsoever. I think he's going to be able to knock down shots. He's going to do the thing where he drives against a much bigger defender and puts his shoulder into him and gets an easy, like, little thing at the rim. And so I think it's just a complete luxury to have Holiday as your fifth starter at this point. And the thing that's fun about this Celtics team, especially now that they're all healthy, we talked about the starting lineup that, like, has now starts playing well. They play Jason Tatum the entire first quarter. They can just come in and then bring in the 4 guys off the bench, the Trace Leches and Al Horford. Everyone's calling it the Dulce de Leche lineup, but, like, that lineup, I think someone else in chat, shout out to chat for giving me all these nuggets. That's the Celtics, like, third most used 5-man lineup, and it has I think it's like a plus 11 net rating, just like absolutely crushing teams. And so just to have that continuity of just excellent basketball guaranteed for the entire first quarter of every single game is a huge just benefit for the Celtics. I think if you want to nitpick, we can be like, oh, the Celtics didn't look great tonight when Jason Tatum was not on the court. Jason Tatum's going to play 40 minutes a game in the playoffs, and so it's really not that big an issue. And so everything's coming up roses for the Celtics, B-Rob. I don't know if you want to react to the Drew Holiday stuff or the lineup stuff, but everything's grand, good, great, grand, wonderful. Get on the bus.
I mean, it's funny. Tatum was actually on the floor in the third quarter when things were going bad, and then it was the rest of the starters and Al or Pritchard there to kind of patch things up in the start of the fourth quarter, which is a nice, change of pace given how It's usually goes the opposite direction in other games, but yeah, it is. Like Drew Holiday coming out of the break was the biggest question I had about this team in the quote unquote second half of the season, and it's clear that it looks like he just needed the rest. Like he needed to recharge the batteries, get healthy, and this is the kind of guy you wanted to see out of him. And this is, like you said, Packard, this is all they need from him. And if he can hit his shots when they're there, show up defensively on nights where they really need him like this against a guy like Brunson, then that's great. Because then if you have Derek White right next to him, back in his bag, like literally playing as well as he did to start the year from 3-point range again, then you have the balance you can only hope for. And this is when we're going to see more Jason Tatum will 1 assist from away from a triple-double again, because guys are hitting shots around him again, and he's happy to distribute now. I feel like more than ever, it seems like.
His quest for a triple-double got a little funny there at the end.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether he was going to hunt it in the final minute.
But
his kick out to Kristaps in the corner was pretty funny. It was like he sort of probably had a lane to the hoop, it looked like. Instead, dished it back to Kristaps for 3. And then the next play, you knew he was passing it. Found Jaylen Brown for 3. Jaylen Brown blew it. Absolutely blew it. Could have been 2 triple-doubles in a row.
But then he lets it just have a shot clock violation. So it's like there's no consistency here with Jason Tatum.
No. He hunted it to a point, and then it would have gotten a little too much. I don't think he crossed the line of hunting for it, but if you go for another one, you're just disrespecting the game at some point.
It would have been fantastic. I actually had the over on 0.5 triple doubles for PrizePicks. I just completely made that up, but it would be a fun thing for them to do. And if you want to join in on PrizePicks, you can now win up to 1,000 times your money. It's the best place to get real money sports action. You can join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even on the one if your picks doesn't hit. This happened to me. I was playing when in New York. Kristaps got hurt, and it didn't hurt me whatsoever. Still turned $50 into $200. So if you want to make some money,
bro.
Thank you. It's been real fun. I actually just immediately lost that money on subsequent games, but that won't happen to you.
You didn't turn $50 into $200. You turned $50 into nothing.
Well, yeah. But like for a moment I had $50, or a moment I had $200 worth of credits, and you could too. You play $5 today and you can get a $50 bonus instantly, and you don't even need to win. You get that $50 bonus just for signing up and playing. That's right. You download the PrizePicks app today. Use promo code CLNS. You get the $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app. Promo code CLNS. $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Now, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I just watched Jason Tatum dominate in Philadelphia live in person. Maybe I watched him do it 3 weeks ago and just smiling all over the place as the Celtics have a 24-point comeback. Maybe he almost had back-to-back triple-doubles. What does this man need to do to get seriously in the MVP conversation? Not talking about winning it, but it's like has Tim Bontemps ruined the MVP discussion because we just know how the voters are going to vote? Because
the term MVP discussion has always seemed disingenuous to me, because typically most years are like this year where there's 2 candidates, maybe sometimes 3. The discussion should not be further than that. I mean, you can talk about who's 4th or 5th on the ballot if you really want. But as far as actual MVP goes, there are 2 people, right? This is a 2-man race. Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
When does it become a 3-man race? If the Celtics win 65 games,
some other season.
3-man race.
Some other season.
When those guys play under 65 games. For this year.
He's playing fantastic basketball.
No, he is.
He's playing the best basketball I've seen him play, like an extended stretch.
He needs maybe if he does 10 triple-doubles in a row or something like that, then I think.
That feels like wildly unrealistic expectations. He deserves credit for being the best player on the best team. And I know I know the Thunder have a better record, a 5-game lead on the Celtics right now. But I think just Jason Tatum being very good and very consistent and being this good after winning a championship. And like, there was definitely a low moments there in January. I don't necessarily think I blame Jason Tatum, but his commitment to excellence and just like, he is the straw that stirs the drink for the Celtics, who are playing phenomenal basketball and absolutely blowing teams out for the past 2 weeks. At what point is he just a prisoner of his own success? What can he do other than the Russell Westbrook get a bunch of triple doubles to be a serious candidate? Not just in the conversation, Jay, a serious candidate for MVP.
I think as long as the team is constructed the way it is, it's just going to be really hard.
It's poppycock.
Because
it's gerrymandering.
He won't have the numbers as guys whose teams have fewer options, as guys like Jokic does literally everything. Like every single possession goes through Jokic. Every single possession.
Worse numbers because he lets the other guys around him cook because he knows that's what's needed for team basketball. That is part of his value. Is that
I actually do agree with you that sometimes even the advanced stats kind of reflect the situation. And Tatum's numbers, they just aren't going to have the same ring to them because I guess they will have a different ring to them. Championship ring, get it?
No, everyone got it.
But he's just not going to score 30 points a game like he has before. He's not going to, have the ball in his hands every single possession. He's not going to have the same usage, the same touches, the same ball possession as those guys. It's just never going to happen while the Celtics are like this. So I think for him to get in the MVP discussion and for it to be a real discussion and not is he 4th or 5th on the ballot, which I think is probably I would put him 3rd. I did put him 3rd on the most recent Tim Bontemps straw poll. That was not where he finished. They put Giannis over him, which That's is like I understand like Giannis has piled up huge stats. He's doing it for like a 500 team. Doesn't winning matter anymore? Don't people still care about winning? I did in my straw poll ballot, but simply he's not going to put up the stats until they lose some talent from their team, until they have injuries for a substantial portion of the schedule, whatever the case may be. Like if his usage is what it is now, they'll have a much better chance to win a championship. He will be rewarded in that. He will be rewarded with first-team All-NBA's bursts, which he's had the last 3 seasons. He just won't ever win an MVP if their team is constructed the way it is right now.
Yeah, I'll say this, Packard. Forget about MVP. It's all about the ring for him. And if he keeps playing like this, they're going to win another ring. Because the team we've seen constructed coming out of the All-Star break with all the pieces together, with Tatum playing like he is playing, like the Thunder and the Thunder will put up a fight, but this is a team that it's going to be very, very hard for him to beat when he is at this level and with his playmaking and when he's locked in with the rebounding and defense as he is. Because God is what it is. Later this decade, when some of these pieces go away, to Jay's point, like that's when he maybe either A, has the counting numbers to match Jokic or SGA, or B, doesn't have the supporting cast. Everyone can be like, hey, see, like it's not because it's Tatum, it's because he has like the best starting 5 around him. That's going to eventually change. And then that's when he gets that stuff. And potentially when he has, a couple rings to back up his resume too.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to dig deep and be like, well, do those guys really make the other players around them better? And then I was like, we're talking about Jokic and SGA, like those guys. It's hard to try to have this conversation without like it turning into me trying to take away from the other guys. I just feel like Jason Tatum doesn't get enough credit for, I guess, the selflessness, which is like not something you can capture statistically, but I do feel like he is the perfect mentality for a team that is constructed in this manner, where you have another superstar like Jaylen Brown, where you have just a bunch of guys who have actually done I don't think I've heard anything about like egos getting in the way of this team ever since they've been constructed. You don't have Marcus Morris and Terry Rozier upset about not having playing time. Like Drew Holiday's not complaining, at least publicly, to anyone about like not finishing the game over like when Peyton Pritchard finishes for him. I think it's like Joe is really able to use whatever lineups he wants. But I do think the team takes its personality from its star, from its leader, and Jason Tatum is the most like got to keep winning. For those who are listening on the podcast, I shrugged. That was important for that. But like he's the most like don't get high, don't get too high, don't get too low, and like whatever it takes to need to win the game. And I think they're like there's no way that an individual award can capture that, but I think he deserves credit for that because like I think that's one of the reasons why the Celtics have been so successful over basically Tatum's entire run as like the front man, but especially since they kind of constructed this team before last offseason. Fair enough. No rebuttals. All right. Good debate, fellas. Good debate. One other thing I wanted to bring up, because we talked about the matchup with the Knicks and how much that favors the Celtics. Let's look past the Knicks. The Knicks might not even make it to the second round because they're fighting the mighty Detroit Pistons. But the Cleveland Cavaliers have been also playing fantastic basketball. The Celtics have not made up any ground on the Cavs. I think the Cavs have won 11 of their last 12, with the only loss coming to the Boston Celtics. They've also added DeAndre Hunter in this time, who I've always liked DeAndre Hunter. I like not as like I think the third best player on the Hawks, but as the fifth best player on the Cavs. I think he's a solid addition. He just gives them a lot more size. Maybe gives them a little bit more versatility if they don't want to go double bigs. There's just another guy to throw out there. Jay, how do you think that the Cavs and Celtics match up right now? Because that feels like the destined Eastern Conference Finals.
Would DeAndre Hunter stop either of the Celtics wings?
Stop? No.
Will the Cavs
Slow
be able
down?
to stop the Celtics from hunting Garland? Will they be able to stop them from finding ways to take advantage of Jared Allen on the perimeter? Will it stop them from those things? Those are the stuff that I want to see answered. Obviously, the Cavs are fantastic, though. Like, I don't want to take away. It feels like every time when we talk about them, we're talking about them specifically as a playoff team. And so I'm kind of just like, yeah, they're great, but what happens in the playoffs? And like to win in the playoffs, you have to be like deep in the playoffs. To win championships in the playoffs, you have to be so not flawless, but you have to have such a small amount of flaws, and any weakness can just be exploited by the very best teams. And the Celtics, I just think they're the team with the least weaknesses. And when I watch them, especially these last 10 games, as they kind of ramp it back up, as Drew Holiday comes back and does Drew Holiday things again, and Kristaps Porzingis continues to like be in a groove, and their starting lineup finds its rhythm again. It's just kind of like, where are the weaknesses? Whereas the Cavaliers, it's like you've got to find a way to hide Darius Garland. DeAndre Hunter, very good. He's going to be outclassed on the wing, just like all the other Cavaliers wings are.
He's better than Strus, though. He's better than Wade. Like, I do think he makes their team better and makes them more of like a two-way.
Is he better than George Niang?
Yes, unquestionably.
One of my brothers does not think so.
That's just because he's
the biggest Niang guy. Niang is the new age Jared Dudley, and Jared Dudley is one of his favorite players ever.
Niang got absolutely abused in both the games he played against the Celtics this year. Just absolutely destroyed.
Do you even remember what DeAndre Hunter has done against the Celtics for the Hawks
he's
at any point over the last 4 seasons?
I somewhat.
You remember one game that DeAndre Hunter has played against the Celtics?
That big win in Boston. That big win in Boston this year. He was okay in that game, maybe.
Playoff series against the Hawks in 20.
I'm genuinely asking, do you have one DeAndre Hunter recollection from any point of his time playing against the Celtics?
Not a specific game, but I remember in the playoff series
everyone looks at the numbers and it's like DeAndre Hunter's good. And I agree. The combination of a guy who can knock down shots, and be 6'8" and not entirely unathletic is good for the Cavaliers pickup. I think they got better. At the same time, I literally I knew when I asked that question that you were not going to be able to come up with one DeAndre Hunter moment.
2023 playoffs. You can't reduce a guy to a moment, just like the general vibes, I thought he was pretty solid.
Here's where Jay has us. The example I brought up, Hunter didn't play in that game. The Hawks win when that shorthanded win.
See? And I'm just
that's enough on DeAndre. I think that's a fair representation of him.
I actually think he was a good pickup. I think he'll help them. But at the same time, you're trying to arm yourself to play against one of the better teams in recent NBA history, and you've got to be at an extremely high level, and he will have to be at an extremely high level. And you could not name one thing that he has done against the Celtics.
Oh, Game 4, 2023 playoffs. He scored 27 points in a Hawks victory, and he was 3 of 6 from deep, and 11 from 17 from the field. Boom.
The game log tells you he was very good.
Oh wait, the Celtics won that game. I'm on the.
Here's a question though on the Cavs though for you guys. They've loaded up. They have Hunter. They have Strus. They have that Dean Wade. They even have Javonte Green now. They
have much better options on the wing.
Exactly. So will they eventually? Can they bench Garland if they need to? And just I don't
think you can. It would kill your offense.
Right. It's that's the thing. It's
you can
either or. They don't have that offense is not going to be good enough without Garland out there. Probably.
We've seen Donovan Mitchell absolutely take over games. Do you think that's just because of Garland's mere presence on the court? I feel
no. I just think it's easier to load up if you only have one guy who can really create.
And they also have Jared Allen. They need to get That's the problem going up against the Celtics is the Celtics have 5 two-way players, whereas the Cavs have 3 two-way players in Hunter, Mitchell, and Evan Mobley. Jay's making faces at his son off screen. It's very
Grady woke up. Grady woke up. I don't know how or why. Tried to climb out of the crib.
Climb out of the crib's a bold move from a young king.
Yeah, he just learned how to stand up in the crib today, and now he's trying to make the best of it. His newfound talent.
Jailbreak coming out.
The way you guys are talking about Celtics Cavs matchup though is are you picking the Celtics in 5? It make it seem like there's no chance. I feel like we've seen very close games against the Celtics and Cavs over the past 2 years where the Cavs have come in, when Donovan Mitchell is healthy, has come in and been pretty successful. It's not like the Celtics have blown out the Cavs. It's been close, gritty wins where they win by 8 points or something like that. And so I feel I agree with you that Garland's not someone you can necessarily hide. You can sag off Jared Allen and then kind of use Kristaps in his rim protection mode. There's obviously some matchup advantages, but this is the best team in the East. This is a team that's on pace to win 66 games. If I'm not going to be concerned about them, are we just going to move on to the Thunder? The matchup with the Thunder? Is that where we're at right now?
What did John Morant say? I'm not worried about anybody in the West. I think the Cavs, if the Celtics don't play well, could knock them off. I think the Celtics, if they're at their best, will not have too many problems in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, this the version of the Celtics we've seen in the last 5 to 10 games. That's Celtics in 6 in my mind right now. But again, health comes into play here. What are the odds? Is Porzingis going to be on the floor at that point in the playoffs? That's not a coin flip at this point. But the odds of the Celtics being fully healthy 15 games in the playoff is not great. And so that's the one I think vulnerability above all else at this point. If both teams are healthy and the Celtics don't, piss all over themselves, then they win that series.
Well, it's guaranteed that the Celtics are going to get up 2-0, come back to Boston and drop game 3. That's a given right now. I mean, that's how generally things work. Then you have a game where the Celtics shoot 11% from 3 and lose by 5. And so Celtics in 6 seems like a pretty savvy pick there. I don't know. I feel like the Cavs have been easily dismissed by you two in a way where it's Donovan Mitchell is still a scary guy to go up against, especially when he has it going. And I don't think we've come up with a great way of slowing him down. And I have an image of Donovan Mitchell knocking down threes over an Al Horford who's been switched on to him as just a potential thing that I'm concerned about in the future. But maybe I'm a high anxiety guy. Maybe, that's just the fan in me. You two are cold-blooded, rational journalists here. Tell me what really is going on. But I don't know. I still think the Cavs are a solid team here, and I'm very excited for their matchup coming up on Friday night. The last time they played, Celtics are 2-1 this year against the Cavs. I don't think they're going to be good enough to catch them in the regular season standings, but going 3-1 against them in the regular seasons, I think it's a huge confidence builder. Here's the big question. The biggest question we have. How do this current version of the Boston Celtics deal with a back-to-back against Toronto and Detroit middle of this week? Because in this run, they win. That's what you'd think, but they also
Detroit's hot.
Detroit's playing well. They got
here's what you guys. Toronto's going to be a revenge game.
I forgot about revenge.
Toronto will be a revenge game
but Kelly Olynyk's
they
not even
played probably their worst game. That might have been rock bottom for the Celtics this season.
That's enough
when they played in Toronto, and so that's a revenge game. And then back to back, I think they'll challenge each other to finish out the back to back strong. It's going to be a win-win.
Are they going to save Porzingis and Al for the Pistons?
Or are they going to split them up? Does Drew play in the back to back?
All good questions. I assume Drew would be. It's going to be a very fascinating situation in terms of how they handle him. I would hopefully he's certainly going to qualify to get some back to backs at this point off, but coming off the rest, he might not necessarily need it here. So that will be one to watch. But staggering them now, like if Nemi's back in action, like you clearly have the bodies just to spread it around and kind of play it however you want it.
I think at some point, too, you have to ramp up Drew's minutes a little bit. He's only averaging about 30 this year. He played 38 last year in the playoffs. You don't necessarily have to go that high with him in the playoffs because of Pritchard's emergence, because the double bigs have been so effective. But I think at some point you've got to build up his stamina for the nights when you do need him for that long.
I'd say no, you got to protect his ass. He's coming off the Olympics.
Yeah, that's fine, but he just sat 4 games. I'm not saying run him into the ground, but I think a couple games when he plays 35 to 40 minutes. Yeah. Just to remind him that he can do it. Remind his body that it can do it.
No, that's a good call. Other than that, though, I'd put him on the Al Horford plan for the most part for these back-to-backs. But yeah, I don't know. Toronto, they blew out the Suns today. Not that they're anything worried about. The Pistons is fascinating to me. The Pistons could be a 4-5 seed based on how they're playing right now, which is wild when you look at that roster.
That's what happens when you trade for Tobias Harris. You get him out of the toxic city that is Philadelphia, and people thrive. The Celtics have the third easiest strength of schedule in the NBA right now. There's a real cruising opportunity. Obviously, they're very locked in right now. I'm trying to remember how they finished the year out last year. It felt like they were just killing teams.
They dominated teams for the most part.
So what do we see in terms of their what do you guys think their approach will be in terms of just focus? Obviously, it's way more fun to play winning basketball and beat teams by 20. But the Celtics, I think what's been good about them in this recent stretch is they've been beating some of the bad teams too. They just really took it to the 76ers. And that's why I'm kind of curious how they're going to handle, just from a focus, just from an approach sense, how they handle a game in Toronto, because it feels like they're very much locked into the 2 seed. They know they can flip the switch, but they still have 20 basketball games left to play, where probably more than 20, 30 basketball games left to play. And they're on this pace to win close to 60 games. But what is their approach in a year where coming off the title, in a year where we've seen them not have the best focus? How do you think they handle it? Or are they just like ramping guys? I don't know, ramping guys down is necessarily the phrase, but I said it and now we have to live with it. But like trying to get guys as healthy as possible heading into the playoffs. Like, what do you think the approach is for the rest of the season? Are they gunning for a chance at the number 1 seed, or are they just trying to be, healthy at the start of April?
I think they want to do both those things, and they also want to put together a sustained stretch where they play great basketball, build the right habits, and I don't want to say like rebuild the belief, because I don't think the belief ever really went away, but just reemphasize the belief within that locker room that you're the best team and that you can trust everything that you do, and that when you do play well, there's nobody that can stick with you. And so I think all that stuff is important over the last month and a half of the regular season. It seems to me, just from covering the team, that like they went through a tough stretch for a month and a half.
Derek White lost his joy.
Had some difficulty pulling themselves out of it, but ever since they have, their edge is back, their business-like demeanor every night is back. It just feels like this team is in a great place right now, and they should be trying to just kind of hold on to that through the playoffs and obviously use it then.
Yeah, foot on the gas through March. Oh, Jay, like you to just rebuild like winning streaks again. They're back.
Yeah, I mean, top seed is probably out of the question.
Right, but it's still there for
but
now.
It's just,
like they're 5.5 back. Like
that's
the Cavs go on a 3-game.
The Cavs haven't lost many.
I mean, they're not going to lose many, but like you can't. That's at least a carrot there that wasn't there last year now. So like they're not going to catch them, but the focus should be there for now, just in case. Like obviously they don't need it, but they have a ton of home games coming up, and if someone gets hurt in the Cavs or whatever, they just go through a lull like the Celtics did in January, then it could be conceivably there down the stretch. So, but it is, I think it's more about like, they just need to sustain this play. Those last 10 games, it's like they haven't had 10 game stretches like this since November. So they got to build that momentum, get the starting 5 feeling good again together for long periods. And then you just mix in the rest maintenance nights for the guys that need it.
All right. I have one last piece of information I think we need to talk about. I think Jaylen Brown was mic'd up before the game, and he heard Kristaps Porzingis trying to get the whole team hyped up. And instead of saying where my dog's at and have everyone barking, he said where my doggy's at, and then everyone started barking, and it made me laugh. Your thoughts?
It was a wholesome moment. Well, I know that road dogs is a big thing.
Sounds unforgettable.
Yeah, dogs, but just
so are the doggies at home? Are the doggies at home, and then it's the dogs on the road, or is this KP just mixing up, trying to do something and not being able to do it?
KP is one of the goofiest basketball players I've ever watched play, because he's just constantly smiling throughout every single game. Like anytime I've seen him live,
that's fun.
He's having a time of his life. And if he wants to say doggies, more power to him. But that it was amusing. Sorry for being amused.
It's it was a wholesome KP moment before the game, during like right before intros. He was doing some sprinting in the tunnel, like in the hallway leading out of the tunnel onto the court. And I was like, a couple of Celtics people were just there waiting for him to finish up and before he head to the court. And then he just like turns around at us at some point and be like, must be fun to watch like a crazy dinosaur roll around like this, huh? And this keeps going. everyone just starts cracking up. And it was like, oh, that's KP. That's amazing. That's the most wholesome.
Crazy dinosaur.
Crazy dinosaur.
Everyone, others called him a unicorn. He called himself a crazy dinosaur.
KP the dinosaur.
Oh, Jay, I talked about this with B-Rob. Have you heard Jason Tatum referred to as the anomaly?
I've seen it on Twitter.
It stinks, right? We can officially say it stinks. As a podcast,
I think it started. So you're gonna actually like it, because I think it started as a Twitter goof, and then
I like goofs,
and then people missed the irony of it, and then people started calling him the anomaly. That's what I've gathered from extremely minimal online research. And by online research, I mean just encountering some anomaly stuff in my For You column every once in a while.
I found the original tweet. It's just some guy named Matt, but I didn't realize it was a goof. I mean, if it was,
I think it started out
was
as a goof, and then it just caught on. I could be wrong. He might have been entirely serious when he called Jason Tatum the anomaly, but I think you and the world would be better off if it was a goof that just kind of stuck.
Hand up. I didn't realize it was a goof. It's a fantastic name if it's a goof. Any other things? Any other notes? Any other thing? You know, Jay, you were there in Philadelphia. Any other fun anecdotes about the Boston Celtics before call this podcast episode over?
I was at the Celtic City HBO premiere for the...
Where Joe Mazzulla was standing there looking like Jalen and Jason's bodyguards stoically.
That's the one. That's the one.
Did you get to see the documentary?
We saw episode 5 of the documentary, which was like from the 84 to 86, 87 years.
Some good years.
A lot of Larry Bird stuff, some Danny Ainge stuff. It's probably going to be an awesome documentary. Like,
Bill Simmons is very good at making sports-related documentaries. He is responsible for most of the 30 for 30, so that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like, I think it's 9 episodes. The one we watched was, I think, a little more than an hour. So there's going to be a lot of Celtics content coming to HBO. I think it starts March 3rd. But it was kind of a cool event. Like, this is going to sound unprofessional, very unprofessional. But sometimes, like, in our jobs, you're just somewhere and you're like, why was I invited to this? like, what am I doing here? Like,
why am I watching Jordan Walsh open up a new boys and girls club gym?
It was like a small gathering of like HBO. Bill Simmons was there. Like all the producers for HBO, like bigwigs from HBO were there. Then it was like all the Celtics players and coaches, and just me
and you.
Like I was
and Bobby Manning.
I was watching it. Tatum was sitting right in front of me for the whole thing. I was just watching him react to like Larry Bird highlights in the story of the 1986 Celtics. And it was just kind of like, sometimes I don't understand like why people invite me to stuff like this. And I know it's my job and that's why they do, but it's just sometimes it's just such an intimate setting with like only players and coaches and stuff like that it's kind of like, wow, like that was kind of cool.
They invited you to tell this exact story, and now all of our listeners will be pretty excited to watch the HBO documentary. Did he get interviewed before or after watching all these Larry Bird highlights? Because he was asked if he about being one of the Celtics greats, and he mentioned Larry Bird.
So he that was like the day before, and then so then the next night or 2 nights later or whatever it was, watching him watch Larry Bird was just kind of like, that's what he wants to be, and he's watching the history of it. And so it was pretty cool to kind of witness that. He seemed very, very into the documentary, and it'll be really, really good, I think. I mean, obviously I just watched one of the 9 episodes, but I feel comfortable saying that Celtics fans are going to love that thing.
Do you guys have a favorite Larry Bird highlight or story that you can think of right now?
It's just any of his over-the-head passes.
Yeah, just a pass.
There's a whole 9-minute compilation of him just doing those passes.
Yeah,
easily.
Just
passing.
Any passing. Passing clips are the greatest highlights.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 1,000% agree. My favorite story. So my dad used to have season tickets in the 80s, and there's this one clip where Larry Bird, he's on the right. I think it was like the right elbow, takes a shot, and it's going like he misses it, and it's going out of bounds. And he basically got the rebound in his right hand and switched to his left hand and went back up with it, made the shot, basically all in one motion. And the way my dad used to tell the story of that is like, We were jumping out of our seats just because he got his own fucking rebound. And then he puts the shot back in. The Garden went fucking bananas. And so anytime I see that clip, I was just thinking my dad, maybe 6 beers deep, like his son would once be on a podcast 20 years in the future, just really appreciating Larry Bird's hustle. So that's my favorite Larry Bird highlight. Is like, and it's a pretty famous clip. Like he goes, gets his own rebound, switches back in midair, knocks down the shot. But it's pretty cool to see Jason Tatum like relishing in that and wanting to be just as cool as like Larry Bird. So I think it's interesting why the players are there. Jay, I don't have a great answer for why necessarily you were at the film screening.
Yeah, because it's my job, man.
Okay, final thing. Did either of you go to the Jaylen Brown Museum of Science event where he unleashed his 741 shoes? So speaking of other weird events you could have attended.
Negative.
No.
Well, Bill Nye the Science Guy was there, and they were talking about physics, which I thought was quite swell. Big Bill Nye connection. All right, final question of the show. Where's your favorite exhibit in the Museum of Science?
The lightning display.
Yeah, that used to spook me out as a child, but yeah, it rocks.
It didn't spook me because I don't scare.
Well, yeah, we all have different experiences, Jay. But B-Rob, your favorite science museum?
Next to lightning, they had the virtual volleyball.
Virtual volleyball?
Yeah, do you remember see that?
I remember that.
Yep, that was spent way
you
too
would
much
just
time
jump,
doing
and then your like projection on the wall would do
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
I like that. I like the musical stairs, and then there's like the weird room in the basement where you can like smell the nature habitat, and it always smelled so weird, but like I can distinctly remember whatever the smell was where the deer hang out. That's a weird zone. The Omni Theater used to really freak me out as a kid. I did not do well with the Omni Theater. And so yeah, I don't know what this got to do with anything, but I thought I wanted to get to know you guys.
I bet you were more of a Wang Theater guy. Always struck me as a big Wang guy.
That's
like such a bad joke and a good joke at the same time. Like, well done, Jay. That's Jay King from The Athletic. For B-Rob from MassLive.com. I'm Sam Packard. We are still Poddable. This has been the free show. If you want more comedic stylings from Jay King like that, you want more discussion about the Boston Celtics, join us. Patreon.com/stillpoddable. Sign up today. Subscribe for the playoff run or the push to the playoffs. We got podcasts for you every single day, Monday through Friday. You can become a kid. You can become a god, or you can become a legend like Moonstar the cat, who has now left chat, so he can't even hear this shout out, but maybe, and he probably won't go back and listen to it, but you can be a legend and join us here on the podcast like Moonstar the cat did. And it's a lot of fun, wonderful chat community talking throughout the games. So go to patreon.com/stillpoddable today. Sign up. It's be grand. Wang Theater's good. That's just good stuff. Thanks you guys for listening to this episode of Still Poddable.
Still Poddable. Still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable. Still Poddable.